Alright, so as you guys may remember, last time we left off I showed you how you can prepare your environment. So the environment we have set up, we have our blank site as we had before, our blank text document, so let's get to some coding. So to actually start the coding process, I have to explain a few things. First off, most of the websites that you're going to visit and stuff use a Doctype Html. What this defines is that it views the HTML file as a document, which is what you essentially want. And you want to type in also HTML because it's part of the tag. HTML, there we go. And you want to add a /HTML so it knows where the website ends. So these are our two beginning tags. Now what you could do is you could also add another HTML here to define it properly, but it's not required, but I like doing it, so I'll use that. So we'll use that. So we've got our beginning tags defined for our HTML code. One thing I have noticed while I was writing it, it created these blocks right here, these code blocks, which is what we want, which is why I use Notepad++ for this, because it makes it view nicer. Now if we save this file and refresh it, nothing has changed, it still looks the same. Well, we haven't defined anything yet, so let's go ahead and do that real quick. Also, one thing I would recommend actually before we do that is we type in lang, which is short for language, then equal, and then type in en, because this will define the language. This is essentially a parameter of our HTML tag, and this will say, hey, use the English language. So I want to save that, refresh it, you can see nothing has changed. It's a really good thing to do. It will define the language your website is in, so that it doesn't attempt to translate it into something. If it's written in English and you use an English-based web browser, it doesn't attempt to translate it to your native language. So yeah. So now we've got that done, I'm going to do some things right here. So what you want to do is you want to add another two sets of tags. So here you want to type in head, and here type in /head. As you can see, those two are highlighted purplely because these are another set of tags that we're using. Again, to differentiate them, you can hide them like this, or view them, hide them all with this one. So this is another tag that we're using. This essentially will store the title of our website, the style sheets and stuff, so, and some metadata if you really want to have that in. One thing I would recommend if you want to have a fully scalable website, so it can like scale properly and stuff, is I would like to add a metadata file or a metadata line. So what you want to do, type in, you want to do the first part of another bracket. Actually no, that's actually a bit too complicated. I'm gonna explain it later when I use it. Don't fog your minds up with that, it's not required. So we have our head tags defined, and here we're going to define our body tag. Now our body tag is where all our text will be saved. So here I'm going to add the body tag real quick, and there you go, as you can see it's been highlighted. So now I like to add breaks in here so we can differentiate those two really easily. In the head tag we're going to add a title tag. What the title tag does is I want you to pay attention to the title up here. As you can see, it says index.html. So what you want to type in here is title, and then here /title, and in between those two type in the title. So my first website. Once I save this, watch what happens. Have a look exactly here. It says index.html. I refresh it. Now what does it say? My first website, which is what is our website. So this is essentially now our base. So this is our title. This thing we wrote here, that's our title. That's what it's using. So yeah, so we got our title. So now that we got our title, let's start actually creating a fairly nice looking website. So each website has headings and paragraphs. Headings are, as the name suggests, headings like the titles for each heading, you know. And then paragraphs. Paragraphs are the blocks of text that you see that are written on each and everyone's website. So let's first cover the heading tag. So if I type in H like this and type in this is a heading, let's use this, and heading, this is a heading, and if I refresh this you can see it added a bit of text here. Now it doesn't really look like a heading, does it? Well, it's because the default heading, the H1, will default to this value. To separate it, we're going to, actually no, let me show you what happens if we do the change I'm about to do. So I copied it again, and I'm going to put here a 1 right behind the H. Also, one thing I forgot, you need to add the / before the letters of the second tag, so it knows that this is the end tag of this tag, and that this is the end tag of this tag. So once we save that and reload it, you can see that the text we've added right here with the H1 is much bigger. Well, that's because it is bigger, because H1 is the actual default one and the one that's recommended to be used. Now if I copy this and just change the value to something bigger, for example 2, let's do 2, you can see it's become slightly smaller. What happens if I type in 5? It will become even smaller. Save this, refresh it, see it's much smaller. So the higher the number, the smaller it is. Now we're going to use just the H1 tag because that's the default one that's being used in pretty much every basic website I've seen, and one that I recommend using if you're starting out. So that's our basic heading created. So now what do we do? Again, we add paragraphs. So again, paragraphs work in the same fashion. P1 is the default one, I think. That is the default one. To add the tag here, and this is a paragraph. You can see the text is much more different than it is normally. And again, if we copy this and change the value to something like 5, it should become really tiny in comparison to the other one. Also, one thing, it will keep adding behind it. As you can see, the size hasn't really changed. It's because paragraphs don't really have a differentiating size if you use them. You might have noticed that they didn't even highlight it properly. So as you can see, if we you might have noticed it now has changed. So why is that? Well, let me return the change as it was with the 5 in that I did, and with the 1 in here that I had. So essentially it treats it as one tag because it doesn't have these defined in its syntax. The syntax is formed with the basic paragraph, which is just regular P. So only headings have different sizes, paragraphs don't. So there you go. That's these paragraphs are differentiated because they are not the same. So once you add this in, you can have a secondary line. However, that's not the only way you can style this. There's another way, and the one that I prefer using. So I have one continuous block of text, and let's say I write out a bit of text. One thing I recommend, or actually do, most of the times I have my paragraph tag right here, the text here, and I don't start another tag. The thing that I do if I want to differentiate it, I add at the beginning of a new line the BR tag. The BR is short for break. So actually before I do that, let me just leave it as it is and refresh it. You can see we have these two blocks of text again right next to each other. To put this on another line like I have in my code, just type in BR. This will use a line break and put it right below it. And it looks a lot cleaner because it doesn't have that weird spacing. If you want to make another separate space for it, again, just end it off with a /p tag and add the p tag at the beginning of the second one. Oops. And add the p tag at the beginning of the second one so that it can separate them. So you want to separate them, use another p tag. Don't want to separate them, just use the BR tag, and you will have them much closer to each other, which is what I prefer if I'm writing a continuous block of text and I want to be it in one section and have another section with a bit of text. So this is text. So we have some text on our website, but now we want to add pictures, for example. Pictures are nice, everybody likes pictures. So to add pictures, it's actually fairly simple. So to add pictures to a website, we are going to use the image tag. Now the image tag by itself is pretty much useless, in my opinion. So if I use the image tag as it is, it doesn't do anything. If I just use the image, you can see nothing has changed, nothing is happening. To prepare for this, I'm going to put all this stuff prepared here down. And you remember our folder right here. So one thing I like doing, you might have noticed this file over here from our previous video. What I recommend doing to have a better separation method to know where each file is I like to create a new folder. So we're gonna go over here to new and create a new folder. And I wanna name it EMG for images. Open the EMG folder and drag your image into the folder. As you can see, mine is called sample.jpg. You need to remember the name of the file exactly as it is. So mine is sample.jpg. So let's return to the code. And how the image tag works, it needs a source. So if we type in src equals in the double quotes, you remember this previously, I mentioned it up here, it's a parameter. So this is a parameter. And we need to type in the relative path from our file to the image. So we type in emg, because it's the name of our folder, / and then sample.jpg. Once you save that and you refresh, you might have noticed that an image has appeared. That's the image I had shot a few days ago, but it's a bit too large. The website has become too large suddenly. Well, luckily for us, we can use different parameters in the image tag. So there are two other fairly important parameters. Well, there are actually three, but we're going to focus on those two. So the first one is height. As the name suggests, this defines the height of our image. I recommend using percentages here because it makes it responsive. So let's do, I don't know, 45%. And then we do width. And we type in, what was it? Yeah, we type in, what was it? It's width, so 65%. Oops, 65%. But you have to put it in the double quotes because it's not gonna work otherwise. Once you save that and refresh the page, you might have noticed that our image has resized, and that's what we wanted. We wanted it to be resized because the image was too big and we've resized it just now. Now, one major thing why I recommended you guys use percentages, I can show this in an example. You can see I resized the page and the image became larger. I made the website smaller and the image becomes smaller. You can see this in real time right here. See? As it's changing, this is dynamic styling. So it's really important that you guys know how this works. So that's it. That's how you add an image to it. So now we have some text and we have some images, but it still looks kind of bland, you know. It's like really cool you have a picture in there, but is it really enough? Well, it isn't. What you can do is you can use a styling file. So styles essentially like how the page will look. One method you could use is in the head section right here. Actually, no, you will not need another section. And you would type in, what was it, the style tag. And then add the end, excuse me. And then add the end, the style tag. And then you would type in the style, how the website will look for each and every part. I don't recommend that you do that because it makes the code unnecessarily long. It's much better that you reference a style file. A style file is a file that contains all the styling information, which is what I use on my website. So some of you who have looked at the code might have noticed that there is no styling defined. Well, the styling is there, but it's in a separate file. So what you want to do is we want to create a new file. Actually, no, let's go over to our folder right here. So we have our folder here. So we have our images folder and our index.html file we've created. But it looks kind of bland, the website looks kind of boring, so we want to add a bit of style, a bit of flair to it, you know, to make it look nicer. So one thing I recommend is to create a new folder again, and we're gonna name it CSS. And in the CSS folder, we're gonna make a new file. So again, text document and name it style.css. Yes, I wanna change it. And you might have noticed that it added its own icon to it, which is what we wanted. So we have our style.css file created. What I like to do is I want to open my text editor, click File, click Open, go to my CSS folder and style.css. Let me move this back to its original position. So now we have our style.css folder, which is nice, but what do we do with this? Well, we define our styles. So one thing I like doing is, let me just write this out and then explain what I'm actually doing. Also, one thing I want to mention real quick, it added, when you write simple bits of code, it automatically formats it, so it looks much nicer and it's much easier to read. Just a bit of information here. So width 100%, and I think it was height 100%. Essentially what this does, it tells the web page like, hey, I need you to be formatted like 100% of your height and 100% of your width based on the screen, so that you don't have scaling problems with your website. It's recommended because it's another safety precaution, so that your website doesn't look broken. So that's our body and HTML. Essentially what this does, it tells the HTML tag and the body tag, which is this tag right here and this tag right here, so all the elements within it, to resize dynamically. That's what it does. Next, I'm going to, let's say I want to change the background of our website. Well, to change the background, you have to use the body tag again, because it's in the body. That's what contains all the text. And then you want to do the squiggly lines again, and then you want to do what is it? Background. As you can see, it also tells me which of the tags I want. Now, obviously, I want the background dash color tag right here. So I double click that or enter it out, and it will add it in. And then I type in the color I want. Now you can define colors in various different ways. If you want to have full control over which color you want, and one of the easier ones, you can either just type in the name of the color. So in my case, it will be blue. If I type this out and refresh it, nothing changes. Why is that? Well, if we go back to our file, you can see we didn't call the file at all. So we need to go back to our index.html file right here. And we need to go into the head section. I usually add this below the title, so it's much easier to distinguish where the file is. And what you have to do is you want to add a link to the file. So the way I like to do it is I type in link, then href. Href basically tells it to use this link for it so that it uses this file. Basically reference this file. So again, put the double quotes in that. And then type in the rel. Now the rel defines what type of the file it is. So in our case, it's our style sheet. So we're going to add the equal sign, the double quotes. Then we're going to end off this tag like this. Or we can end it off like this. This is a universal method of ending off a link tag. Or any tag really, if you don't want to type it out again. I would recommend this for links if you're using it for metadata and such. It makes it much easier. So I use this because it works, and in the rel I type in style sheet, And in the href, we want to put in where our file is. Where is our file? Our file is located in our website folder in the CSS folder codestyle.css. How do we type this? You want to type in the relative path from your file. What do I mean by this? This file looks for the style.css file, so it's in our CSS folder called style.css. So css/style.css. If we save this and reload the page, what happened? It used the color we defined here, don't believe me? Let's change this to red and save the file and reload the page. It's red now. Green, why not? It's also a nice color. See, it's changing based on what I type into here, and it makes it much easier to edit. Now, these are the basic colors you can use, and there are a bunch of others. However, if I'm going to recommend you a method that you can use to define colors, is use the Rgba tag, or the Rgba form of values. Essentially how this works, if I type in 0,0,255, it will use the highest amount of blue that it can. And you can define each and every color. So let's do 128, exactly half blue, everything else is white. It's darker blue. I don't know, let's do 64, that's half of that. As you can see, it's becoming darker and darker the more we change this. Another method you can define colors is Rgba. Rgba is for the alpha value, so if I put 0. I don't know, if I put it in 1 and save the file and reload it, it doesn't change anything. If I put in 0, it's still black. I don't recommend using Rgba because it's not the best method of defining color. I prefer using Rgba because it's much faster. You can also use hex values. Hex values are essentially this thing right here that I'm going to show you right now. So hex, and then was 0000ff. You can see the color is still the same. It's just in hex value form, so it's essentially the same as the Rgba one that we did before, but it uses hex values. I recommend that you use the Rgba one if you're starting out, because it's much easier to define colors this way. And you can even combine colors, so I don't know, let's do 128 on the red one and 0 on the green and 255 on blue. It's kind of pinkish or purplish, but you know, it works. What happens if we put here 64? Again, it will combine those colors for us, and it looks a bit more of a purple kind of ish color. Let's put this one to 255. And it's more of a pinkish color again, but I prefer the blue one, so I'm going to change these back to 0. See? There we go. So that's how you start a website, and how you can add elements to it. Now, you might have noticed the text is kind of hard to read on this background. Let me make this actually darker so you can see a use case. So 128 for a darker blue color. It's really hard to read. It's not as easy to read, is it? Actually, let's make it even harder for the person to read the page. Let's do 32. Oi, what happened? Oh yeah, I just I just closed the file. So let's do 32. Save the file. F5. I know it's pretty much impossible to read because it's really dark. So what do? Well, to solve this problem, you might have remembered that we added our text with the h1 tag and the p tag. Now the h1 tag and p tags are essentially tags that define our text, and we want to define the color of our text. So to define the color of our text, what do? Well, we type in the name of the one we want to define. You can use multiple ones, so I'm going to do p and then p1. Oops, no wait, p and h1. I'm going to separate them with a column, do a bn again, enter it out, and here I type in color, the double dots one, and type in white, save it, refresh the page, and boom, it's much more readable. So what happened there? Well, the thing that happened right here is I defined both the heading and the paragraph. Watch what happens if I get rid of the h1 tag here. and save and refresh the page. You can see the heading is now dark. It's the black one, the default color. Again, the same thing will happen if I get rid of the p tag in the beginning, save it and reload it. You can see it switches around. So you can define multiple tags at once just by typing in p and then h1, and that's how you define these, which makes it in the end fairly simple to work with. Also, one more thing I didn't mention, the source files for this will be available in the description below in my GitHub page, where you'll be able to see pretty much each and every progression of this. So this latest progression will have the link in it. The link will be also available in the first video of this series, where I explain how to set up your environment. And I'll also set it up so you guys can see it in a separate page. So for you guys to be able to know this, or to have a look at what it actually looks like, I mentioned GitHub pages before. I mentioned how you can create one, but let's create a repository, you know. Let's create a repository of our website to show you how it actually is really done. So create a repository, give it a name. I don't even have to give it another name. I'm just going to test dash website, and this is a test website. Want to make it public and keep it as it is, create the repository, and that's our repository created. One thing I'm going to do, I'm going to go to settings, then go down here, and you will see here GitHub pages, and here in the GitHub pages you click this and you want to pick the master branch. So pick the master branch, but it doesn't have anything, has it? Well, it won't use it because there's no file in it, you dunce. So go back to your test website repository. Remember the file that we've saved? We need to upload both of these files in order to be able to see those. Well, if we close our text editor and open where our code is, you'll be able to see that our website is looking like this. What you need to do in order to upload it successfully, go back over here, and you'll be able to see uploading an existing file. Click that. It will send you to the upload page, and just drag and drop them like this. One thing you might have noticed while reading this is it writes out the paths entirely. Essentially, it adds the folder with the file in it. It will take a little while on my internet connection to upload everything. But overall, it's a really simple website. You can see all of these three have been added. First commit. And I commit the changes, and you'll be able to see that once it processes it, which takes a little while to do, boom. This is basically what our website will look like. We go into settings right here. So once you've uploaded your files and go back to settings, you'll be able to see the source part over here in GitHub pages. Tick the source, tick the master branch, and it picked it up right away. And it says GitHub pages source saved. So if you scroll down now, you'll be able to see. Now yours will be different depending if you created the username.github.io, it will be under that. However, since I already have my website located under that address, it doesn't let me pick it. It actually picks the name of the repository as a subsite. So if I click this, it will send me to what our website actually looks like. And this is our website that we've created. Now the image is a bit large, so it takes a little while to load. But this is the website that we've created, and it's fully accessible. So let me just refresh this real quick. Oh, I think that's the full image actually. You can actually open the image in the new tab if you want to. Yeah, that's the full image. So yeah, that's pretty much our website. Created fully using HTML and CSS. Again, the repository of this website will be in the description, so you guys can have a look at what the file structure looks like, and it will be progressively improved upon. So this is, as of the time of the recording, this is what a simplistic one looks like, and all you can do now is just keep on adding pictures, adding your styles and stuff. This is just a simple styling part, and it's pretty much all you have to know for now. In terms of JavaScript and stuff, we will cover this in a bit more of an advanced part, because my personal website uses JavaScript and everything else. But pretty much with HTML and CSS, you'll be able to achieve something that looks like this but doesn't function as this. But the looks will be achievable. Again, the link to the repository will be in the description. If you've got any questions, just let me know and I'll try and ask those in a fairly approachable manner. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the second video in this series, and I hope to see you guys next time, where this is like pretty much all you need. Just these two videos, how to set it up, how to get your page uploaded, and you can use this as your main website essentially. I wouldn't recommend it, but if you go to settings and scroll down to the GitHub pages section, you'll be able to find your link, and once you click the link and you send it to someone, they'll be able to access your website. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Just these two videos in this series. This one is a bit longer because I'm talking to you guys about pretty much everything. I will try and get into JavaScript and more complex stuff, like animations and stuff, but it will be a fairly long video, so it's a bit of a warning ahead. For now, this is all you need to know. And if you found this helpful in some way, make sure to drop a like if you want to, and I'll see you guys in the next one. And also make sure to stay safe and wash your hands.